You're listening to DruidCast episode 162.
How the stars shine bright on this darkest night, the air so still, a whisper from the hills, and I stand all alone under full moonlight and hear the songs of the land. How she sings like a sigh, cloaked in darkest night, her voice reaching far, embracing the stars, and I stand all alone under full moonlight and hear the songs of the land. It's a whisper in the dark to the beating of my heart, for the heartbeat of the earth is just the same. There's a magic in the air, a power that she shares when I listen to the music once again. When my spirit is low and I lose my fight, I know where to go, where I'll feel at home, for I'm never alone under full moonlight when I hear the songs of the land.
Hello my friends and welcome to DruidCast episode 162. I am your host Dave the Bard, and DruidCast is brought to you on or around the 20th of every month by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. If you want to find out more about the Order and our courses, you can do that right over there at our website at www.druidry.org. Wow, what an opening song that was. You heard The Songs of the Land by the Lark in Linen, and I personally cannot wait to hear a full album from her, which I believe is in the works. Thank you so much for sending that in. I saw the Lark in Linen perform at the Obod Winter Gathering, and as I watched I got the same feeling when I saw S.J. Tucker perform at the Pagan Spirit Gathering. I had to ask Suj if she would be my Rhiannon on the Mabinogi albums, and as I watched the Lark in Linen and heard her voice live, I knew she had to be my Blood Iwedd for the Fourth Branch album. Well, I asked her and she agreed. The song she sings as she begs not to be turned into an owl, man, that is going to be emotional. Still a year or so away though. However, let's hope the Lark in Linen album arrives soon. What a talent she is, and thank you for sending that in. I absolutely adore your voice and your songs. I mentioned in the last show that Linda's Rune Talk was the last pre-recorded talk I had, and with every conference and camp being cancelled through the pandemic, there was no chance this year to record more for the show. So over the coming months there will be more interviews, but I wanted to try something different. So this episode's talky bit is the first of a new series of interviews for DruidCast that I am calling Walking the Talk, where I ask people of a spiritual persuasion to take me to some of their favourite places, and while we're there we will have a respectful, socially distanced walk together while we talk about the place, their connection to it and their path. First up this month is my wife, Kerry. We have been working our Druidry together for over 20 years. But this is the first time I've actually got her on the show for an interview, and the Walking the Talk series seemed the perfect way to start. So, grab a cuppa, chill out, and hey, let's go for a walk in the countryside together. Walking the Talk, an interview series for DruidCast. So, Kerry.
Hello.
Where are we?
We are in one of my favourite places of all time. This is colloquially, not colloquially. Locally, that's it. That's it. It's known as Sleepy Hollow. It's not its proper name, but it's a woodland nestled in the Sussex Downs near Chanctonbury, Sisbury and Washington, all of which are fabulous, famous places for funky things.
So walk along the path. It's lovely blue sky. We've got Oscar the dog with us, who's currently having a wee up a holly tree. Keeping it real, people, keeping it real. And around us we've got deciduous oaks and holly, and it's getting to be early autumn because right now, if I do that, you can hear the crunch of thousands of fallen acorns. So why is this place so important to you?
Oh, crikey. This is a place that has so many memories, so much life experience here. I first started coming here when my kids were really small, nearly 30 years ago. And they've run around and fallen in love with this place and had many adventures. Then as they got older, they've come back, and my youngest girl brings her dog for walks here. I still come here. It's one of the places that I've built such a relationship with over the years, and it just feels like a friend. The whole place just feels like one of those beautiful, comfortable friends that it doesn't matter how much time you spend away from it. Every time you come back, it's like it's got open arms, the kettle's on, and you can sit down, relax, and just talk to the place, and it responds. It's beautiful.
Okay, there's a nice little bench up here. Let's go up here and have a sit down and continue our chat underneath this big pine. And obviously there's been a fallen tree here in one of the storms. Oscar, this way. And they've made a bench out of it. So let's have a sit down and continue in a minute. So how does this wood connect to your druid path? What kind of experiences have you had in this wood as a druid?
Many and varied. From very, because it was always one of the places I came to from even before I would have officially ever called myself anything other than just a normal nature-loving person. It's always been a place of magic, so it was always a completely obvious place to come if I wanted to work any kind of magical ritual, or my Druid Initiation was here. We've worked with our grove here for many years in various ways, be it from big rituals to very small kind of just intimate little rituals. This place is full of offerings and and magic and exchange. You know, don't come here. I mean, wands. I have wands that come from here. Well, you know, I've brought things and exchanged things and asked for things that are intimately linked with my Druidry that I use all the time.
So what is the Druid wand to you?
It's an interesting thing, because for many years I didn't really use a wand. I suppose I didn't really understand the tool until in a ritual I understood that when you use a wand, it becomes not only an extension of and a focus for your own energy, but you draw in the energy and the power of every tree across the land of that particular type, and you focus it like an ally, like an army of trees, as in the Godai, and you focus that energy and you ask those allies to enhance and direct that energy. It's a powerful thing. And when a wand comes from a place that you are intimately connected to and have a relationship with, that somehow adds more emotion and more focus to it, because you feel like you're drawing on an emotional ally. It supports that magic for me.
Can you tell us what tree you're... Not necessarily exactly the tree, I'm sure you can remember which tree it was. Which species of tree did your wand come from?
That particular one was a rowan.
Oh, right, okay.
So my rowan wand comes from here.
Ah.
So,
yeah, that's, well, you know, my wand that I've had for, wow, at least 20 years, I would think, is from a rowan.
Years.
And that rowan was from this wood as well.
It was.
Down by a place that we're going to go in a minute.
The dark
pond. Yes, the dark pond. So a little rowan tree down by the dark pond. My first wand was an oak that I cut from a branch, an oak camp actually. I was sitting there, I was doing the gwers in the Druid grade that was relevant to the wand, and I just saw this little branch waving at me, and I said, "Is it you?" And they went, "Yes." And very interesting. That wand lasted for me for a good number of years, but then I was in a ritual at Imolg, and big changes were happening in both our lives, and it snapped. It just snapped for no real reason. I opened it up and half of it was still in the bag, and it was like, no, this is the end of this cycle. Find a new ally, like you say, you know. And my favourite tree has always been the rowan. I mean, I know the yew is beautiful, the oak is beautiful, but there's something about rowan trees, particularly when those red berries or the flowers are out, that just make them just stand out in the woods, and they've got an energy of real magic to me. So yeah, it's always been the rowan since then, really. Yeah, okay, well, shall we continue our walk?
Indeed.
Okay. Right, so we're now entering another part of the wood, and it's amazing how this woodland has so many different kind of energies and vibes, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it really does.
We can sit on here.
Yeah.
Oh, nice, conveniently fallen branch.
Well.
Oscar, come on. All right, so this place holds some memories.
Certainly does.
Tell us what you remember and recall of this place and your moments here.
So this is the part where the fairy tree is, where my kids used to kind of peer into the little dark nooks and crannies of that old oak over there. It's also where my Druid Initiation, where we did my Druid Initiation right here. It's also been a place where I've done many other sort of smaller little rituals and initiations. Our grove's done bardic initiations here. And it's kind of adjacent to the dark pond.
The dark pond.
And the dark wood.
Yes, and the dark wood. And Oscar's decided to have a nice sit down with us. And what is amazing is that this place is so full of dog walkers and children. Yet where we are now, we have done really deep ceremony as well. Your Druid grade initiation was in this very public space. Yet we were not interrupted.
Broad daylight,
and not one dog walker. And
No.
so that's the other end of the spectrum.
Yes.
That's when you know that the place is looking out for
Yes,
you,
absolutely.
and things can carry on. So let's get up and have a wander over to the fairy tree. And it's
a young man looking at it right now.
oh, it's got a long. Oh, it has. Oh, he's playing on the swing. Oh, well, maybe there is a swing on the fairy tree, and I remember they've put the swing on a dead branch, which wasn't sensible. So let's leave the fairy tree. I can see it, and we'll wave. But let's move on, and head now to the dark pond.
The dark pond.
So we've walked down the bank, and we are currently standing on the banks of the dark pond.
Which is more like a dark patch on the ground at the moment.
There
filled
is
with
not
wood.
one little puddle of water in the dark pond. It is totally and utterly dry at the moment. In fact, Oscar is in it as we speak, wombling around the dark
Which he
pond.
would have been even if it was full of water. But,
He would have, being half Labrador, he loves his water. Oscar, this way.
but thankfully for your newly cleaned car,
Yeah. But that shows what a
dry.
dry year it's been.
It really has.
And no water in the dark pond.
Okay, so we are on the borders of the dark wood.
The dark wood. Let's go towards it.
Which actually today is just stunningly beautiful and not that dark at all.
No.
Because the sunlight, this kind of early autumn sunlight, is just creeping down through the thinning canopy, and is just this beautiful golden light raking through the little plantation of pine trees, which is the dark wood.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous.
So the dark wood, like I say, probably it looks like the remnants of when this was probably looked after by the Forestry Commission.
Yeah.
It's a whole area of pines that have grown very quickly and very tall, and they are all planted in straight lines.
Yeah.
But because they're pines, the ground is covered in pine needles. This is often the place where you find tons of those wood ants as well, isn't
That's true, yeah. Massive wood ant piles.
it? Yeah. And of course it's evergreen, so it never, it's always shadowed, but this dappled silver, golden light is just
beautiful.
Amazing.
This
So
is-
what's your memories of the dark wood then?
The dark wood is always the place where everybody runs through going, oh, the dark wood. And you have fun with that because it's just, it's about, well, it takes you less than 2 minutes to walk across it. It's not exactly huge. But it's also the place where I remember the grove. I can't even remember the context we were doing it. But we had some sort of a ritual, and we were doing a magical hide and seek game.
Wasn't it part of an elemental year and to do with the earth?
Oh
ritual?
yeah, quite possibly, yes.
Yeah.
God, it's so long ago now.
This was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Maybe 50, I don't know, 18 years ago probably.
At least I would have thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and we had all gone off and hidden, and it was all about tracking and tracing and kind of using the earth to camouflage yourself. And most of us got found fairly quickly. I don't know. There may have been some giggling involved, I'm not sure.
Yeah, probably a bit of a giveaway.
A bit of a giveaway. However, there was one of the grove who we spent ages. I mean, the place is timeless, so you just have no idea. And it was dark. I mean, it was dark. And just, we could not find one about it. We just went, at the end, we gave up and just went, no, Janice, come out. We can't find you. And she literally stood up like she'd been under an elven cloak. And she had been right in the midst of us.
Right next to us.
Right next to us. And she literally scared the whatsits out of us as she stood up and just went, here I am. And we all went, wow. And it was completely, she had literally become the earth. She had become a tree trunk or
That's what
something.
It felt like. It was a tree trunk.
She literally had vanished. So if there was ever an invisibility charm, Janice had it.
She knew it. And all she'd done in reality was get her cloak, put it over her and kneel down.
Yes.
And she just blended completely into the woodland, and we just didn't see her
amazing.
at all. It was quite remarkable.
We still laugh about it 20 years later. We love it.
And another thing that happened here that is fun, but didn't happen in the dark wood, it happened a little bit further down, was a drumming session we had once here, where we all brought our drums and we thought, right, let's get in the woods and let's close our eyes and drum.
Massive djembes.
We had djembes.
Did we?
No, we did.
Small djembes.
There was at least one big djembe, which, let's face it, people I think forget sometimes they are used to send messages across jungles in Africa, and of course we all started to drum and it was fantastic, and we were all journeying and tranced out, and then suddenly we heard this frantic movement in a bush. And the bush moved again, and we kind of opened our eyes and it was like, what's going on? And then the local woodland ranger just stepped out and said, hello, can I ask what you're doing? And we all kind of stopped.
Looking slightly spaced and kind of, we ought to have been a 60s kind of drug-addled kind of, whoa, man, tripping. But none of us were. We were all just tripped out on the drums. And apparently one of the local houses had said there are drums in the deep. Drums in the deep. And he came and investigated us, and we then realised that quiet, peaceful, secrety kind of ceremonies work here, but not loud drumming circles. No. That's not going to work. So, lesson there for people who want to drum in public spaces. Make sure you're not, close to one of the farmhouses or something like that. Just have to say, while I'm wandering around in the bit that comes out of the dark wood and comes into the beautiful beech woodland, which is about as big as the dark wood, not very big at all, but is a beautiful area where the beech trees come in the spring with this beautiful, vibrant, bright green, go through the year. I mean, we're kind of at the end of summer, early autumn, and they're still sort of deep green, and then they'll start going into this glorious golds and coppers and beautiful light, and the light filters down, particularly through autumn, where the leaves are falling like rain, like golden rain in the golden light, and it is just beautiful. Beautiful.
It is. And Oscar's tied me up.
And I'm looking across the floor at all of the fir cones going,
yes.
Maybe I need to make a wreath for Christmas.
Well, that's one thing that we do here as well. We come here and collect stuff from the ground, the pine cones, and maybe a little bit of holly for.
And most of the woods for our Battle of the Trees camp came from here and the surrounding area.
It did, and for that we cut 60 sets of ogham staves everyone from the tree that it relates to, and then through magic and ritual, we people at the camp ended up with a set each. Big long story, maybe for another time. But a lot of those trees were given here. Yeah. And we're entering this beech area now, and there's something about beech bark. Oscar's found some very interesting smells. Yeah, he's reading the P-mail. There he is, leaving a message. Okay. But it's like elephant skin. The bark of the beech just reminds me, it's so tactile, and it's often the tree that you see people have like carved initials in and things like that, and it's just something about the beech. And if the oak is, the king of the woods, then the beech always feels like the female equivalent to me of the woodlands. Do you get that?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say that the first real conversation and magical kind of interaction I had was with a beech tree when I very, very first started my bardic grade, and it was kind of represented that supportive network. So the roots are often quite shallow, and they kind of make this network across, and they're interlaced like Celtic knotwork, and then you have the branches kind of interlacing as well above you, and it's like this sphere of protective energy. Although I would never camp under one, as they do tend to drop their limbs suddenly and with desperate consequences sometimes.
Yes, that is actually really good camping advice. In bushcraft, the beech is known as the widowmaker for that exact reason. It just randomly drops branches on things below. So we're coming down to another section of the woods now that is really, really important to me. At the end of my Druid grade, I realised that my Druidry, my personal Druidry, my outward Druidry is definitely in the Druid grade because I do a lot of service for the community, as do you. We do it together. But my personal Druidry is in that area where the Bard and Ovate cross over. The kind of shaman Bard, the Taliesin, the Merlin, the Awajin, that kind of thing. And those things. And so at the end of my Druid grade, I asked Anderida Grove if they would reinitiate me into the Bardic grade. And this path we're on now is where that initiation took place. And it is actually the main path through this section of the wood.
Yes. It leads up to another beech wood.
Yeah, and for that night, it was transformed by members of the Anderida Grove into this initiatory journey.
Yeah.
I was sitting up in the green field that I can see just through the trees here, and you came to collect me with your owl mask. You were representing Blood Iwedd at the time, who was my guide at that time.
So to put it in context, what happened was I collated all the ideas that I knew, all the guides and the animals and the gods and goddesses that Dave's journey had been influenced by, and members of the Grove and associated people got together, and each person took a particular aspect, a particular guide, and I gave them an overall idea of what we were doing and allowed each person to, with their knowledge of Dave, to create a station where he would interact with that guide. And we set those stations up with decorations and lights and all kinds of magical things. And he journeyed to meet all of his guides of that moment and that had brought him to that moment. And we used this space, which opened its arms, completely transformed into a magical realm unlike anything we'd ever known before, and just created the most incredible night.
There's a dog. Just decided to come along at that point. But it is, well, there we are. I mean, that just kind of proves it, doesn't it? Because it's a public thoroughfare of this woodland.
Yeah.
But for that night, from the moment we arrived until the moment we left, nobody came.
No.
Nobody came to us that night, and we weren't interrupted at all. And we didn't have waylocks or anything like that looking after the area, turning people away. They just didn't turn up. And it was the most powerful journey. I remember it so well. I remember the people who were there, some of which we, moved on from the Grove and I haven't seen for many years, but they were part of that journey for me on that night, and I was reinitiated as a bard -ovate. And that's where I've stayed ever since. From my personal journey, it's where I'm at my happiest. Where are you happiest, do you think, in the Bard, Ovate and Druid? Where's your personal Druidry in that triad of schools?
I suppose the I don't know. I mean, I suppose because I enjoy writing and story and all of those things influence my Druidry and my artwork. I guess there's an aspect of bardism in there. But for me, I kind of feel like I sit in between the Druid Ovate.
You're in the other bit.
I'm in the other bit, yeah. So if you have the three circles that all overlap, I could possibly be sort of sat. I quite like liminal spaces, and I don't like being labelled. I enjoy.
You're not an Aries, are you?
I might be. I might be an Aries. I might be quite. Considering I don't like labels, I've got a Virgo moon, which means I try to label everything and put it in boxes. But the chaotic Pisces rising just kind of disrupts everything, and the Aries just goes, "Oh, I'm bored now," and wanders off. So
between the Ovate and the Druid,
I think those are the places for me that, the deep magic and the deep and the expression of that deep magic, keeping the link between nature, the ancestors, the wisdom accrued, how the narratives change, and how the magic of that can still be drawn through from ancient times to modern times, and how that needs to be expressed in a way that is relevant to your mindset, to your physical situation, and to your spiritual state and growth. So Oscar's trying to strangle me with his lead.
We've come to a stop here by
a beautiful, beautiful birch tree that just kind of towers up. I don't know how old it is, but it's gnarly and it's tall and it's graceful, and it watches over the big open space where children play. And again, beautiful bright green, fresh in the spring, and golden and glorious in the autumn. It just is, it's like a sentinel.
It's one of the biggest birch trees I know.
Yeah, it's huge, and quite wide girth.
Yeah. And of course, this is, like you say, it guards the wood, almost like a guardian of the woods. And if we go over to the bench, which is where I was sitting on that night of initiation, this is the tree that I could see. And of course, if you've done, if joined a member of OBOD, then you'll know that the tree associated with the bard is the birch for new beginnings and all that stuff. And there it was, right in front of me, this beautiful being just watching and guarding the space where you lot were setting up that night. Wow.
we are. Ooh, hello. That's a big spider. Sorry to interrupt your meal, spider, but I need to open the gate. Well, there you go. Huh.
Nature.
That's love of nature right there.
So that sound was the sound of the allotment gate. A sound famous throughout
Allotments everywhere.
allotments everywhere.
Oh. Right, I'm going to sit on this chair and hope it doesn't break. It's me slapping the slats back into position.
So where are we?
We're on my allotment.
Your second sacred site.
Yes. Yeah, I love this place. This is my personal kind of paradise in the right sense of the word. This is the place where I make my personal bargains with the earth and, you know, my exchanges, and I give it love and it feeds us.
It does. So, for those who may not know what an allotment is,
yeah.
what is it?
Right, so allotments are an ancient idea, possibly even back to the Anglo-Saxons, and basically it's parcels of land that are divided into smaller parcels that people rent from the local authorities, and they're usually protected from being built on and things like that. They became formally kind of legalised, I guess, in the early 19th century, and came particularly strongly just after the First World War, when servicemen were coming back from the war and battered and needed things to be doing. So and the idea is that before the welfare state, when things were becoming really industrialised, allotments were set aside pieces for the labouring classes, she says in inverted commas, as it was termed in those days, for them to grow food, basically. But these days allotments are a lot more about they're kind of little communities, and people do kind of flower gardening as well as vegetable gardening and things now. And it's a fabulous place to be. It's just, yeah.
And we're very blessed it's so close. I'm sitting here and I can see our bedroom window.
300 steps.
300 steps. Unfortunately, you have to go round the road. If we could just build a bridge over our next door neighbour's garden, we could get here in far less steps than that. But we've got a 6 foot odd shed here, and we've got a glorious, fantastic greenhouse.
Love my greenhouse.
And I can see corn on the cob growing. I can see cucumbers,
butternut squash, tomatoes, raspberries.
We've had all the strawberries.
Oh no, some of the strawberries are coming back again.
Oh right, okay, more strawberries.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been quite battered this year. It's been so like the dark pond in the woods. This place has been really dry. It's been quite a difficult growing year this year. It's just been a difficult year this year.
And how does this allotment? What's the connection between your Druidry and spirituality and this little space here? Well, it's not so small actually. It's one of the larger allotments, I think, isn't it? So, yeah. Yeah,
this is a full size allotment, so it's about I think it's 25 metres, which is all 25 to 30 metres. It's almost 100 feet long in old money.
It's a lot of feet.
And it's about 6 metres wide, so it's about something, I don't know, 100 by 20 or something like that. There's an awful lot of butterflies.
Yes, now I'm looking around at this and thinking, oh, look at all these beautiful cabbage white butterflies.
I'm looking at them going, get off my brassicas. Get off my brassicas.
But there really are just hordes of cabbage whites around, and they're so beautiful.
Look at my kale in a minute.
So, yes, Druidry and the allotment.
Yeah, Druidry and the allotment. I think the allotment is... It's kind of like a natural expression of my personal Druidry. You know, it's... In this life, it's very easy to be suckered into Tesco's and, you know, all of the big supermarkets, and life becomes a lot more convenient when you're, you know, kind of going shopping, doing that. When you're working hard all day long and you have kids maybe or whatever, your life is busy. But there's something really fundamental when you sow a seed, you nurture it, you plant it in the ground, or if you've grown it in little trays, you transplant them out, and you have to keep them alive. And you have to make sure that the ground they're going into is good and nutritious. And in return, they grow, you pick them and you eat them. And there's this seasonal connection. It's a visceral connection with, you know, the for me, you know, other people might term it other things, but it's like a nurturing mother for me. You know, I give her respect, she gives me respect, and she nurtures me, you know, and this is my little place, and it feeds not only my kind of spiritual interaction with the land, it feeds my mental stability, it feeds my emotional stability. It's like if things are stressful, I come here and I get my hands in the earth and it becomes real. This is real. This is hand-to-mouth existence. And my philosophy is to reduce the amounts of impact I have on the earth, negative impact. And for me, this is a very powerful way of doing that. You know, I try to reduce plastics. I try to reduce things, you know, that are unnecessary. I try really hard to live seasonally so that I am in the moment. You know, you also have to be a bit future thinking because, you know, there's you know, you have
I want Brussels sprouts for Christmas.
Exactly. And they're growing quite nicely there. You know, if I can keep the butterflies off them.
Get off. Get
off his Brussels sprouts. But for me it is a hands-on expression of my spirituality, you know, and I think that, you know, in Britain the local authorities are, I believe, legally obliged to, if you ask, they are legally obliged to make sure that there is land available for you to do this. And if they don't do it, then I think they're in breach of some kind of contract. So, you know,
I don't know how well that works in reality with local authorities.
Well, there's lists and lists, but you know, they keep trying to get. Apparently, there's two levels of how allotments are designated. They're either statutory or something. I don't know. There's two levels, and if they've got it categorised as one, they're allowed to kind of try and get around it and build on it or whatever. But if it's the other, then they can't. And I think, you know, when allotments have had a resurgence, particularly over the past few years, and I think they're finding it harder and harder to shirk their responsibilities. And, you know,
I think this year probably as well, you know, with the COVID situation,
definitely.
lots of people I think are taking up allotments to grow their food. And
indeed,
you know, one thing I love is when these, I mean, I don't do any of the planting, I'll be quite honest and upfront here. I'm the tractor. Yes, I do the lugging around of soil. You've got the green fingers, and I have the benefit of the food. And I think it was last Yule when you popped over the allotment and cut some Brussels sprouts right from the plant, and they were cooking within 10 minutes, and carrots and potatoes. And seriously, there is nothing it tastes different. It does. It tastes different when you're eating seasonally. It's and with the cycles of the land. And I guess our 8th festival, Wheel of the Year, are based on agricultural connections. At least the 5 festivals. There are other ones are stellar, but the 5 festivals are agricultural. And I think growing food is one way, a really, really amazing way to keep in touch with that cycle of the Wheel of the Year, isn't it?
It is, and it also makes so much sense of so much folklore and so many songs, and the narrative of human beings and their relationship to the land. When you need the land to feed you, when there were no such things as shops or whatever, you suddenly get a deep understanding of how the ancestors had this interaction with things far and away beyond their control. You had to find a way to bring that into a relationship that was understandable, and to have a narrative that you could work with, pertaining to each particular piece of land. When you live on a piece of land, it structures your language, it structures your attitudes, it structures your way of being with your society, or more so in the past than now, I guess. Which is why I kind of despair at the bland kind of blanket corporate view that we have. This globalization that we have denudes our land and our thoughts of the magic of interaction, of understanding that piece of land. People are afraid to get their hands dirty these days. I mean, obviously with COVID and all of that, there is a level of hygiene required that stops infections, and that is just basic good sense. However, kids need to be taught that there's nothing to be feared about getting your hands in the soil, growing seeds, getting that interaction, and understanding that bugs are sometimes a pain when you're trying to keep them off of your veg, and slugs and all of the rest of it. But they're also vital, and understanding the interactions between everything in the microcosm helps you to understand how things work in the macrocosm. It's basic magic science, and just interaction.
Well, I love it. You have one more sacred space, because time, we would normally get in car and drive to the Long Man of Wilmington. But let's talk about the Long Man here, because we know it well enough. We've been there a few times over the years. It's about 40 minutes drive from our house, and it's where, since March, Spring Equinox 2000, we've been up until this year, we have been holding regular open rituals, and had this amazing thing that said, we haven't missed one. And that was back in February. We stopped because we had to. But come on, tell me what, if we're talking of sites that move us, what's special about the Long Man for you?
Oh, crikey. The Long Man, for anyone who doesn't know what the Long Man is, he is a figure that has been marked out on the Sussex Downs chalk hillside. He's not made of chalk, he's not a chalk figure. Probably was at one point. He's now marked out with concrete slabs. And he appears to have 2 sticks, 2 long staves, one in each hand. And he's vaguely reminiscent of a belt buckle where Woden is dancing a stave dance. He's got this raven howl. Possibly there's a connection there, maybe. But we do know he's been there for quite a number of centuries, possibly back to, I think the oldest they actually found was I think, back to the 14th century. With archaeology. They can't say specifically if he's any older than that. However, above him, on the top of the hill, are ancient chalk flint pits and also barrows, burial mounds. So the site has been sacred for so many years, thousands of years. And there's a little flat hill at his feet where we gather, which is probably spoil or something from one of the flint mines. And it is just the most nurturing space. It's like a little arena on farmland that's access land. And people have worked at Alexander's, was it? Alexander's?
Yeah, in fact, on a previous DruidCast where I interviewed Maxine Sanders, she said that her and Alex used to go to the little copse of trees where I hide the antlers for our Beltane chase. They worked there, and she told a story of that. So, yeah, and I think Alex's ashes were scattered. And I think some of Doreen Valiente's, I think, may have been scattered there as well. But it's got a real connection to our modern pagan.
It certainly
paths.
has.
That's a fact.
And you kind of feel like the Long Man. I mean, you have Rudyard Kipling's story where it's like the Long Man is opening the way for the fairy to leave, which is kind of always breaks my heart. And he's deeply embedded in Sussex folklore and Sussex narrative. And there are stories of giants flinging great rocks at each other across the hills.
From Caburn to Windover. And his outline is the fallen giant that was hit by the Caburn giant.
And it's a deeply magical place, and it welcomed us. I mean, we were peripatetic for a short while, moving around from site to site until we kind of felt like the Long Man was the place to stay. And we had a bit of argy-bargy with the original owners of a particular place where they did not like us being there. However,
we found a way around that.
We found a way around that. And the Long Man just encompasses us and feels like a guardian for the spirituality, the pagan spirituality within Sussex. People are drawn there. From all over. He draws people in. The ancestors continue to draw people in.
They do. And those ceremonies, I think our biggest was 120 people. That was a winter solstice. That was a winter solstice one. It was really cold. People still turn up. And it averaged sort of 60 to 80 up until February. But then we had to stop because of the COVID pandemic, and since then you've been writing ceremonies, posting them on the Andera de Gorseth Facebook group, and then people have been doing those ceremonies in their gardens or in their families.
And we all post photos afterwards of our little altars and sharing
just tried to keep the community going at this time. It was that groups of 30 could meet up, but that's changed this Monday to 6. So right now, our group cannot meet together at the Long Man, and it will,
not physically,
not physically at the moment, but it will do. It will do again without a doubt, and we can get back up there again. It's a fantastic, beautiful space, and so enigmatic. It's suffered a couple of times over the years being vandalised.
Yes,
as we've found out, and Trini and Susanna's stunt for their show was a bit of a pain in the neck. But that was a number of years ago.
People.
But I think for a lot of people, when they think of Sussex, that's one of the real big things they think of.
Yeah, he's iconic. In the same way that the Cerne Abbas giant is iconic for Dorset.
And,
the Long Man is for different reasons. I mean, he's more enigmatic, shall we say, than the Cerne Abbas giant. The Cerne Abbas giant he puts it all out there.
Yeah, tells it like it is.
there's a bit more mystery about the
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's those coins, I think, which have got the dancing.
There's a buckle particularly, but there are other images as far as I understand.
And these are Anglo-Saxon images of like a spear dancer, Woden, with a horned helmet and these two spears.
Ravens on his helmet.
Right. And it, when you look at the Long Man, it really does look like that. I've got to say, know. And you're right in the heart of the South Saxons and Wessex. Sussex was part of the great kingdom of Wessex, and
Sussex was the last place to be Christianised, I believe.
The last area of England, certainly. Yeah. It's because no one wanted to come here.
No, it's because it was all swamp.
Yeah.
Had its own very own ague.
Yeah. So, Sussex may have been part of the great kingdom of Wessex, but no one came here because it was just full of wolves, bears and malaria. Which, when you look at it now, it's hard to believe.
But that sense of the Weald and the forest is still very strong. I mean, the Andred, which is what Anderida is named for, the forest of Anderida stretched all the way from Hampshire all the way over to Kent and up to Surrey and along that line, and it was a powerful place. And working with the goddess, which the Grove has done for the past couple of years very strongly, you get that sense of dark, you get that sense of not dark in a grim and unpleasant sense, but that forest sense of dark, and that sense that she had eyes, that her power was in the eyes of the animals, that she saw everything, that everything was known to her, and she was part of the warrior goddess. There's images believed to be of her where she's riding a horse naked with a spear in her hand with her hair flying out behind her. I think it's a fantastic image. At some point I am going to do a piece of jewellery based on that. And and just that sense when all of the fracking thing was happening, we did a ritual, I think it was called, I can't remember, Whispers in the Breeze or something like that, and I invoked Andred. That was the first time I'd actually invoked into that ceremony and felt her going, finally, and rising up through the earth and
get off my land, you what's it. And this funny thing they did get off her land.
Funny that the fracking kind of ebbed and flowed away. So
well, okay. Well, thank you. I'll see you in the house, because I'll leave you at the allotment.
No, I think apart from watering the thing, I'm going to come home and you're going to make me a cup of tea.
Oh, okay.
That's my reward.
It's been lovely to walk the talk.
Thank you.
Star, sorrow, these chalk white hills we climb. Sunrise, the longest night. Sorrow. Out of the night.
I thoroughly enjoyed walking and chatting with Kerry, and we will have another Walking the Talk interview next month. After the interview, you heard the song Sol Ra from the new album Burning Burning from Odd Fellows Casino, and I absolutely loved it. It felt like being served a milkshake of music made up of like Syd Barrett era Pink Floyd with a dash of early Radiohead. Absolutely amazing. Well, this music means we are approaching the end of the show, but before I go, let's have the results of last month's competition. The prize was a print of the Hedgehog and the Moon painting by the artist Sean Ryan, and the question I asked was, what name did Sean and Lee give to the young hedgehog in the story I told on the show? Well, the answer was Susan, and the first name drawn from the hat and winner of that lovely painting is Takayla Neri. I hope that's pronounced right, from West Virginia. Congratulations, Takayla. That print will be with you very soon. The prize this month, well, Kerry is the artist who has created all of the artwork for my CDs over the years, including my Staghorns logo from the covers of Hearn's Apprentice, Hillsdale Hollow and Sabbath. And some of you will know I've been playing a series of house concerts from my Dave the Bard Facebook page on Facebook Live. And to mark that, Kerry created a Dave the Bard Lockdown Tour 2020 t-shirt that is available on her Redbubble store. Well, we will be giving away a Dave the Bard Lockdown Tour 2020 t-shirt as this month's prize, and the question I'd like you to answer is, what is the name of the woods Kerry and I visited during the first part of the Walking the Talk interview? What is the name of the woods Kerry and I visited during the first part of the Walking the Talk interview? Email your answer along with your full postal address, and please this time can you add the t-shirt size you require, and send that to podcast@druidry.org, and one of you will win a tour t-shirt. If you want to see the shirts and the other things Kerry has, they will be on her Redbubble store, and I'll include a link to that in the show notes. Well, my friends, that is a show. I will be back with more DruidCast next month, but until then, stay safe and well, and I wish you all, as ever, peace and blessed be. Goodbye.